Hi, good morning, everyone. It's Dr. Evelyn, and we are here live with your mind body moment for this week. I'm still here, still haven't popped yet. My baby's still here. Um, yeah, this is my, well, you can't really tell. Okay, this is my reality here. Keep telling you, I'm like, I look normal from the shoulders up, so no one can really tell. I'm still here. Um, For those of you who haven't joined me before on our Mind Body Moment, I'm Dr. Evelyn. I am a chiropractor out in California in Half Moon Bay Area. Um, I speak on this wonderful page. We will get through this because I am all about helping the mind and body work together by supporting a healthy nervous system and creating a strong foundation for receptivity and adaptation in our lives so that we can get through whatever it is that we are being asked to do in our lives. So that is kind of my background. My aim with all of these talks is just to get you thinking about how we have so much how we have so many resources, really, our whole mind, our whole body, how they work together, and so that we're not missing any piece of the puzzle when it comes to strategies and angles that we can take to help ourselves be healthy and well and vibrant and flourishing and all of that good stuff. Um, Again, I would love to have you guys stay in touch with me. I am, planning to not abandon. We will get through this, but I am going to be taking a break during my maternity leave. And I would love for you guys to stay in touch with me either on the Dr. Evelyn Mosley DC Facebook page, the at Dr. Ev DC Instagram, or through my website newsletter at eudemoniachiropractic.com. Those have been listed in previous videos. I'll list them again in the comments later. Okay, business out of the way. So last week, if we talked about how reality is really shaped by our overall receptivity and then how we perceive that data and then kind of create the world around us and what's real. So I gave a lot of the background for how we really do create our own reality and how that is a total mind body integration to use our actual physical senses to receive signals from our environment and then that we integrate that in our brain and in our mind in order to create what's real, and that we can have a lot of influence in our lives about what we decide to pay attention to and what then becomes more apparent and more obvious and more that we gain more awareness of in our reality. So that's kind of the basis for this lecture, but I wanted to take it almost a little further because this week I met a new patient. And just like all my new patients, they come in and we chat for a while about, their whole health history, their lifestyle, what's been going on. And I had this woman that said, I think I'm just really high strung. I've always been really tight. I've never felt flexible. I've always felt like I had a lot of tension in my system ever since I was a little girl. I, and my mom is kind of the same way, so I think it actually runs in my family. And this is just one example. I have trained myself to listen to this kind of language all the time. People come in with I am statements, things that they believe are really true about themselves and that have always been the case. that are now like contributing to their discomfort or contributing to their problems, right? So I listen to that language because when when someone says I am high strung or I am this or I have always been this way, it's a cue for me that okay, how ready is this person to actually let this go and to actually let this not be real for them anymore? They probably won't believe me if I just go and say, you know what? After today, you're not going to feel that way anymore, right? That's not how it's going to work. I could do all kinds of treatments and modalities to that person. And if they are in the belief that they are always going to be tight and feel this way, um, it's not going to work. Okay, so pause there. That was patient A. I'll give you patient B. This has also happened, which is the opposite of, not necessarily the opposite, but another example. So I had a patient come in and she's been having some low back pain and it's starting to bother her and it's never really been a thing before and she'd like to, stay on top of it, get rid of it. Um, and so she comes in and I'm asking her all kinds of stuff and we do the whole body and we assess everything. And I notice that there's also some dysfunction going on in her neck and that there's things that can improve in her neck. So I'm treating her, we're going along. She comes in after about 3 visits and she's like, you know what's crazy? My neck doesn't hurt at all and I can move it like so well and I feel like I have so much more range and mobility and like way less tension and like I didn't even think that was something that you could fix. I didn't even bring it up because I had just like completely accepted this as like uh as how my neck is. I had stopped even noticing that my neck was tight. Okay. And so she experienced a change. Now, this is the important part of this lecture right here. This is the nitty gritty. So perk up, ears on. What is the difference between patient A and patient B? Right? Both have things that were so constant in their lives that they had just kind of accepted them and didn't really think that there was anything that could be done about it. Patient A, who said, I am just chronically tight, really high strung, whatever, that is part of her narrative. Okay? So that is the story that she tells to doctors, to herself, to whatever. It's how she's been able to explain, and it's important to that person because that's why they say it. Patient B was like, okay, my neck bothers me, but she did not identify as a person that had neck problems. She did not identify as a person who had neck pain or that was limited by her neck. It was so not part of her narrative that she didn't even think to bring it up, right? So in that circumstance, her body and her mind was still open to whatever happened with that, right? She was not sitting there like, I am a person with neck pain, and so I don't know. Very few people go, I've had this neck pain for 20 years. I think now's the time to go get it fixed, right? People don't really think that that can change, but it's based on how conscious is this? How much of a part of your narrative and your story is this, right? There is a little bit of openness and there is a little bit of play that we can do when you haven't clung on to something. There's another level of accepting, and then the level further from that is clinging onto it, grabbing onto it, and making it a part of who you are. Okay? So that's really important. It becomes a part of our narrative. This high-strung woman, that is part of her story. Every time there's a stress event and she gets tense or feels tension or tightness, she's replaying the narrative that she's a tight person, that this is how it's always been, and this is how her mother is, and this is just her fate, right? Maybe it's something that she uses in her relationships around her, when to get sympathy or to have an excuse not to do certain things or whatever. I don't know how this person uses this in their life, but it is a part of their life and it is a part of their story. And that's the difference. So the reason that we do this, right? Humans are so unique. We are kind of the only species that we know of, at least, that are responsible for answering the question, who am I? Right? Who am I? Who are you? And so we have a responsibility to know that and be that, right? We have a responsibility to answer the question, well, what shall I do? If I am Evelyn, what does Evelyn do? Right? So we have an identity that we need to fill in. And in our society, we honor and respect people who are consistent and who we can predict and who have character and are, people of their word, and that you can trust them, right? So it was evolutionarily advantageous for us to stick to the script and, have this persona and then be that person and then just be that person consistently forever so that we don't throw anybody off. Not only a societal, not only a societal pressure to stay being who we are, but an internal pressure to stay being who we are. If I figured out how to survive as a young child by getting sympathy from people, by being really cute and amiable, then it feels really scary for me internally to be like, you know what? I'm just going to say, like, screw all these people. I'm going to do what I want. And I'm just going to, like, take what I need and just, like, not try to make anybody else happy anymore, right? Like, that is so internally scary because we feel like the part of the reason that we survived was because we had this other persona. And we don't want to lose ourselves and change who we are as people, okay? Now, objectively thinking about it right now, you would realize that, with or without tension, with or without physical discomfort, you're still the same person, right? Like, we can think about that conceptually, and that can be, something where we can be like, okay, like, why would you be attached to that? But honestly, it's a subconscious thing. It's a programming thing. You might not realize what pieces come in and identify you, and the lengths that you'll go to stay being who you are, right? So I'll give you an example for myself personally, a couple of examples actually. The first time this happened to me was basically when I hit puberty. I was a really small kid. Like, I was always the shortest in my class. I was kind of a late bloomer. Um, I was just short, small kid. I was this little kind of ball of energy, and I would literally like run and jump on people, and they would like catch me because I was just this small, cute little thing. Okay, then puberty happened. I literally grew 5 inches in high school, like a boy. You know, got breasts, got the whole thing, like from small pipsqueak energy ball of energy child to like woman. Here we go. 4 years. There you go. It was really fun. um, and like I still had this persona of myself that I was just like this cute, chipper, tiny person. And like sometimes I would like sit on people's laps or fit into like I would try clothes on and stuff that like didn't fit me. And I had this whole kind of dysmorphia around who I was. And I had developed a personality of being like the small, cute one. And now I was like not the small, cute one. I was like an average size, kind of like you can't really get away with that. Now that's kind of bordering on like you're being really sexy, not cute when you do that. And I had to like shape my mind around, okay, what is this body that I'm in now? And like, how can I accept this as my reality? And it happened really fast. The same thing kind of happened when I got pregnant. I mean, I've always been an athletic person. I've always been an active person. I've always been like a really independent person. And as I've gotten further and further along in my pregnancy, there's things that I like really can't do. For example, like stand in the kitchen making soup for an hour. What the heck is that? I am a person that can like of a day, let's go hike 10 miles or like let's go backpacking and like carry this pack like of a day. And now I can't stand in my kitchen for an hour. That's not me. Ew. Who is that? I have to ask somebody to help me do this. I need to ask for a chair. Like when I'm standing in line, I had to go to the DMV and I like had to ask for a chair because I was standing in line. I was like, ew, I am not the person that asks for a chair. Uh, but I'm like, okay, I have to accept that. This is what's happening in my body right now. And probably the most resonant example for me was that I found out when I was a junior in college that I had a really bad gluten allergy. And this was so against my narrative. I was the person that was just easygoing, happy go lucky, wherever we want to eat. I was never picky, never. And I saw that me having an allergy and me having to be specific about what I ate was really picky. And like, now I'm going to be one of those girls that like has a special diet and it needs to like only eat this and that. And I had like this really bad impression that that is just not who I am. I am not one of those girls. And so it was so hard for me to advocate for myself. Honestly, in the beginning, there were times when I suffered through like serious stomach aches. I would just eat the stuff because that's what everybody was eating, and I didn't want to be the one to say something. And um, I had to like learn how to advocate for myself. There were times when it was just like I would be with a friend and they're like, wait, you can't eat that. Like, stop it. And like my friends would advocate for me because I was so hard on myself to be the person that was picky. And I hated being the one where people would be like, oh, well, where can you eat? Let's go there. And I'd be like, no, I don't care. I can find something anywhere. And I would end up eating like an iceberg lettuce off of the sandwich of someone because like they're really honestly like wasn't food like the insides of sandwiches, like random stuff, because I just wasn't advocating for myself. I didn't want to be the picky girl. Okay, so sometimes you go farther than you are you think you would in order to keep your narrative alive. And a lot of it happens subconsciously, so don't judge people, right? Um, when we identify as someone who is blank, whatever it is, we we feel that that is part of our narrative, and then we feel that we are betraying our character, betraying everyone around us, which therefore, subconsciously and evolutionarily would mean that we are no longer trustworthy. We don't belong in society. We like can't change because that would just be horrible and no one would ever be able to trust us ever again. And that is just like not a safe thing to do, right? Mentally. So, what if your persona, though, is that you're chronically ill or you you are depressed, you've been diagnosed with depression, or you've been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder? Then what? Then how do you allow yourself to be open to healing or changing if we've already shown that it's so hard to change your narrative, change your character? There's a lot of things that I don't want to change about myself, about my personality. I like people knowing that I'm really loyal and that they can always count on me. That's not something that bothers me that I want to fix. But if I had a disease or, a thing that I felt was like not serving me anymore, like being really high strung and having tension all the time, and I wanted to make that change, but I felt the same exact pressures to not be able to change that as I did personality factors. I mean, that would be really, really hard, right? We feel like we are betraying our character or being fake when we want to make changes in this once it becomes part of our narrative. Now remember, patient A made it part of her narrative. Patient B had this and it wasn't part of her narrative and it didn't bother her to make a change. So that is the kind of nuance that we're working with here. And it's an emotional attachment. When we use the phrasing, I am, like I am depressed, or I am someone, I don't know, with a gluten allergy. I don't know. That's a bad example. I'm trying to use my example. Um, or, anything like I am really gullible and I always fall for stuff and I don't, I can't trust myself. I am not smart enough. I am whatever. It can be a physical thing, it can be a emotional thing. Whenever we use the phrase I am, we're adding so much more emotion and we're adding this layer of truth and fact that we automatically deduce that we cannot change it, right? It becomes real. It becomes reality for us when we say I am. And to change that is so scary. We would have to figure out how to completely re-navigate the world if we were not who we were. Because remember, it's also up to us to, what shall I do? Answer that question of who we are and what shall I do? That's our responsibility. So if we change that, we have to figure out how to literally re-navigate the world, which is so scary, to our subconscious and to our, old old world that's trying to keep us, safe in our bubble. So the thing that we can do though is kind of create some distance between this, right? In the example, I know that a lot of us are here because we're looking for mental health resources during like this crazy circumstance time. And I don't want to downplay how important it is that, some people have serious, mental illness, or they have really, they have diagnoses of depression or of anxiety disorder or whatever it is. And I want to acknowledge first that it is so important that you A, discovered that, and B, are like seeking resources to help you, because that is exactly what you need to do. You can acknowledge it and accept it, right? Both patients had accepted and acknowledged what they had going on. The thing is, though, you can avoid being defined by it. It doesn't have to become part of your narrative, right? You can still be open to healing. Would you like to heal from that? Would you like that to no longer be true? You can always heal. You can always heal, really. Even if it's not 100%, you can always get better. And you can always change. And we have so much control over our reality. Really, it might be a lifelong pursuit, but if you give up and just go into the narrative of like, I'm depressed, and you can be, you can say, I experience this. It's also an experience, right? So don't look at it as a life sentence. Don't make it a part of your narrative. Don't say, okay, I'm depressed. What do other depressed people do? How do I maintain consistent with that character so that I don't throw anybody off and I don't throw myself off? Right? That's the last thing that we want to do. What we can do is say, okay, I'm experiencing depression. I'm someone that experiences that. It doesn't have to be this way. That's not who I am. I am more than this. And I can change, I can heal, and I'm going to. And the days that I don't feel this way are days that I can even be maybe more myself. Or the days I don't feel this way, I'm not going to look at them as a fluke. I'm going to see that and be like, wow, today I'm not feeling depressed. Today I'm proving to myself that this isn't my life sentence, right? So you can do things to help yourself heal. So one thing I like to try to give a little exercise at the end of each talk. Our exercise today is that there's actually been a study that when we use the words I am, it's a lot more emotional. But when we talk about ourselves in the third person, it actually removes a lot of the emotions. And it removes a lot of the stigma and it removes a lot of the attachment of the narrative to it. So, for example, instead of saying like, I am, I am picky. I'm sorry, I am not going to eat that. It's like, um, for me and the gluten thing, if I had known this, I would have been able to say, oh, Evelyn, she is healing and she is trying to do what's right by her body and avoid eating gluten. You know, I could see that. I wouldn't be like, ugh, Evelyn, she's so picky. Because I know I'm not picky, right? I know that that's not what I'm doing. I wouldn't be able to say that about Evelyn, even though I feel like I'm when you say I am having to be this way, it's like, oh, it's all this like internal self-talk. But if you really looked at it from like would you talk about someone else, you're way less harsh. It's weird. So if you say like, ugh, like I'm such an idiot, or like, I can't, I'm so embarrassing, or I'm so awkward, or if you're like, Evelyn, you were so awkward. Evelyn, you are an idiot. We can say that, but it doesn't sting as much because it's not really like an internal dialogue. It's not adding the emotion. It's like just a noticing. It's like and then we move on. So you can start to listen. First lesson, if you can identify the things that you are holding on to, that you're creating as part of your narrative, that's one thing, and that's a huge step in the right direction. I mean, that's like the gold of this, right? It's really hard to do, but here we have so many, health resources, so much different mindfulness, so much different like many different resources for introspection. And you can just listen to the way that you talk. Honestly, that gives a lot away. Um, and saying, like, and then saying to yourself, like, okay, I'm still going to be me if I let some of this stuff go. Like, this isn't going to change who I am. I'm still me. And then if you want to start practicing getting out of that, when you find yourself saying, like, I am this, or having a negative self thought, or having a feeling that seeing yourself using a diagnosis or using a, chronic condition or truth in your life as something that's shaping your decision making, you can, instead of using I am, you can change it to your name and start talking about it in the third person and see if that doesn't help you give it a different perspective or reshape how much it's like clung into you. Okay, guys. Again, thank you so much for listening. I'm Dr. Evelyn. I am here for you for, comments, thoughts, etc. If you're like somebody who just is wondering, how do I talk about myself? I do consultation, whatever, however I can help you, let me know. And this can apply to like health examples. This can apply to like negative self-talk and other things that you're creating around in your reality. Just know that you are so much more than any of these characteristics or any of this narrative, that you have ultimately created most of your narrative. And so if you don't like it, change it. There is a study. So some people would say, like, we have all the control over this. This one study said that as far as emotions and happiness goes, like maybe 50% is, disposition and personality and kind of what we're born with. 10% is based on circumstances, and 40% is all based on us. And we have like full reign of what we want to do with that. It's all about intentional activities. So even if, and I think that that's a really low number personally, but even if we were being conservative and using that study as our selection, just know you have so much control to change this. And I know it's scary and it's going to take some introspection and diving into kind of your programming and what's been going on for you for a long time. But know that you can heal, know that you can always change, know that you have the power to create your reality and create your narrative, and know that we will get through this. All right, take care, everybody, and maybe I'll talk to you next week. I don't know. We shall see. Take care. Bye.